Greetings, men of 222. It's really great to be with you today. Did you know that we've been doing 222 for over a year now? Congratulations for your steadfastness and willingness to hang in there. Hope you're learning a lot. Today's, we're going to start the sub-acrostic under initiative. Finished up with yes is yes last week, and this week we're going to talk about proactive. But remember, initiative is boldness with integrity. And in our society, some men today have been bold or aggressive, but without integrity. You know, we're suffering a situation right now at the national political level where a man is accused of beating his wife. And we don't know whether it's true or untrue, but I'll tell you what, we certainly don't condone that sort of behavior. And Manhood in Action is coming against such behavior. And in fact, I believe that the initiative section highlights the traits of a great man and therefore a great father. For example, the traits that we're going to be studying over the next 6 weeks are proactive, the leader of the elite force, he's a teacher, rejects passivity, and repentance. So let's jump in to proactive. The definition of proactive is creating or controlling a situation by causing something to happen rather than responding to it after it has happened. Isn't that so important? Creating or controlling a situation, causing something to happen rather than responding to it after it has happened. That just reminds me of sin. If we can control and stop it before it begins, then we don't have to deal and respond to what happened afterwards, right? Men were designed by God to lead, to make things happen. That's the way He made us. But all too often our society has forgotten how important men are. Part of that's because we haven't had a lot of wars, national wars that involved everybody. Men were respected at one point because they were the ones who fought wars and protected us. That is less and less the case today. But John Eldredge has said of men, God made them the way they are because we desperately need them to be the way they are. Yes, a man is a dangerous thing, but so is a scalpel, so is a car, and we need those things. Boys and men need to learn to be men. They do. Just because they're chronologically old enough doesn't necessarily mean they're a man. And often in society, we have left the task of raising men to gangs. Gangs turn to each other for fellowship, for love, for camaraderie, for family, instead of turning where they should be turning, which is to the family. We must allow young men to compete, to test their ability. They need to test their very being. I remember in high school, part of why I played football, but in particular why I wrestled, was because I just wanted to know. I grew up in a white middle class high school that was kind of soft, and I wanted to know if I was tough enough to make it, and that's why I turned to those things. They need to have the confidence that understands that even though it's hard, they can succeed. You know, it's interesting, isn't it, that sometimes young men today have never had the opportunity to fight through things. And as parents, one of the things I would warn us against is the fact that don't make it too easy on your kids. When they have a problem with a coach, when they have a problem with a teacher, something like that, let them deal with failure and try to get back to success. There is a time to stand up and fight, but if you've never done so before, you may quit as a man. I think we've raised some of the finest young men that I've ever known in the Christian community, but honestly, many of them have never been tested. Our society worships at the altar of safety, so we won't let our kids mix it up because they might get hurt. Now, no one wants our kids hurt. But no one wants them to be afraid to engage. When you tell a child over and over again, don't do that, you might get hurt, they become afraid of life. Many years ago, my youngest son was playing high school basketball, and he played really hard. He did. But he was told by a pastor to tone it down and remember he was playing for Christ. Frankly, I was disgusted. I just couldn't even believe that. To think that someone could misunderstand intensity and effort for poor behavior. I think Jesus would play as hard as he could within the rules. My son was playing, as his college coach described it one time, he was playing 100 miles an hour with his hair on fire. That's good, not bad. Being docile isn't being meek, biblically meek. That is not being docile. In fact, meekness is playing with controlled power. In real life, we lead our families, and sometimes it takes great courage. And one of the best stories that I've ever heard that illustrates this concept was told by Pastor Jim Custer. And it seems that two older couples were sitting in the restaurant after church, and they were chatting. And a family walked in, a father, a mother, a grandmother, and three daughters aged approximately 16, 14, and 12. And the daughters had very short canvas skirts on with midriff tops, open waist, open navel and all that sort of thing. And one of the guys looked at the other guy and he said, "Can you believe that?" And the guy said, "No, I cannot believe that." And the second fellow said, "I blame the father. I don't blame the mother. I blame the father. I don't blame the grandmother. I blame the father." And the other guy said, "Why?" And he said, "Because that man knows what every man in this restaurant is thinking right now." And that's so true, isn't it? So true. You see, telling your young daughters not to dress provocatively is hard. It takes guts. "But Dad, that's cool. But Dad, that's what they're wearing today. But Dad's that's I want to be in." Well, I understand that. In fact, it's interesting. Women don't always dress for men. We think that they're dressing to get the attention of men. But sometimes they're just dressing for women. They want to be seen as cool and chic and all that sort of thing. Women are not driven visually like men are, but you and I are, Dad, and we need to protect our daughters and our wives. The point's clear that we must protect our daughters, our girlfriends, our wives. In 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 4 through 6, it says this, "But you, brethren, are not in darkness." We're not in darkness. We are in the light, that the day would overtake you like a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of day. We are not of darkness. So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us be alert and sober. Men are given a challenge. We are told to be alert, to be ready to intervene when we need to intervene. Proverbs 9:8 says, "Do not reprove a scoffer or he'll hate you. Reprove a wise man and he'll love you." That's what this is all about. We're trying to iron sharpens iron. We're trying to make sure that each other. And if you get offended by what I say, well, just make sure you've at least thought it through. Be proactive and protect your family well. On a different note, I want to encourage you to be proactive and set aside rewards for yourself at the Bema Seat judgment. Now, the Bema Seat judgment is a judgment that occurs in 1 Corinthians. And it was named after the Greek word bema or bema, which is where, like if they ran the marathon and guys were out and they ran way, way out and you couldn't see the whole race, right? So the runners came back and the winner went on and sat on this Bema Seat, if you will, and then people would come back from the course and they would say, "Well, when he went by me, he was within the rules. When he came by me, he was in the course. When he came by me, he was in the course." And after everyone is reported in, see, they were basically judging whether the fella had done it fairly or unfairly, right? So they wanted to know if he had cheated or whether he was being worthy of being crowned the winner. Well, the same thing's true in life for a Christian believer, by the way. Did you know that? 1 Corinthians 3, verses 10 through 15 tells us this. It says, "According to the grace of God, which was given to me, like a wise master builder, I laid a foundation, and another is building on it. But each man must be careful how he builds on it. For no man can lay a foundation other than the one which is laid, which is Christ. Everything starts with Christ. Now, if any man builds on the foundations with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or straw, each man's works will become evident. For the day will show it, because it will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. Now, I'm going to finish the quote here in a second, but recognize the fire will test the quality, just like when the judges came back and the runner was on the bema seat. You and I will be on the bema seat. If any man's work which he has built on it remains, he will receive a reward. We'll get a reward. But if any man's work is burned up, he suffers loss. But he himself will be saved, yet so as through the fire. In other words, at the bema seat, only believers are judged at the bema seat, not unbelievers. That's at the great white throne judgment. And the things we've done in life for Jesus Christ and have done for his people will be rewarded for the believer at the bema seat. We'll be rewarded for good and suffer loss for the things which we did, which were sinful, or even things that were done not with the right heart attitude. So believers are to be judged at the bema seat, but not unbelievers, right? But the only question is whether we'll have anything from earth to show from it. Will what we have be hay, wood, straw? Will it be burned up, or will it be precious, gold, silver, precious things that will remain so that we will have a reward? Be proactive and make sure you're sending your earnings ahead. Now, one of my favorite quotes is from Jim Elliot. In fact, it hangs right here in this room. And the quote says, "He is no fool who gives away what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." And Elliot, of course, was killed by the Auca Indians, giving his life. And he was saying, he is no fool who gives away what you can't keep anyway. You can't keep your toys. You can't keep your money. All you can do is send it ahead, if you will, by doing the things that would honor Jesus Christ. Send it ahead, man. James, as always, says it very clearly and succinctly in James 4:17 when he says, "Therefore, to one who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin." That's bema seat stuff. If you know the right thing to do, be proactive. Do it. When your daughter says, "Dad, you don't understand." Look, how many of us have seen the wear that goes out today, the casual wear, that has cheerleader written across the rear end? Every guy's eyes are attracted to that. How would you let your wife or your daughter go out in such a thing? I just want you to think about it. I'm blessed. My wife wouldn't go out in it anyway because she understands modesty. So what are the takeaways for this week? Number one, men must be ready to act like men when we are needed. And if they're to do that, we can't wait until they're needed before they're trained. They need to be trained. It's like an insurance policy. You have to have the insurance policy before you need it. Number two, love your family enough to lead them. Help them know what appropriate dress is. Thirdly, 1 Thessalonians 5 says this, "So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us be alert and sober." Let's not get lulled into sleep thinking that what we have in this world is what really matters. It's the next world to be with Jesus that it's all about. We live here to take as many people with us as we can because Satan's fighting so that we don't. Number four, he is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. Jim Elliot. And lastly, when you know the right thing to do, do it. Oh, excuse me, there's one more. Be proactive. Send it ahead to the bema seat. See you next Saturday, Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise. Be intentional this week and honor Jesus because he's alive.